You're listening to Music Tectonics.
Welcome back to Music Tectonics, where we explore things happening beneath the surface of music and technology. I'm Dmitry Vitsa, your host. I'm the CEO and founder of Rock Paper Scissors, a PR firm that focuses on music and tech and music tech. And I'm joined today by my colleague, the wonderful Jade Preboy. How you doing, Jade?
Great, Dimitri. Thanks for having me today.
We had such a good time together at NAMM, our first NAMM.
Yeah, we did.
The National Association of Music Merchandisers, I believe is what it stands for.
Yep.
So we thought we'd spend this episode just kind of giving our wonderful listeners an insight into what we saw there, how it went, what our experience was going there for the first time, and keeping an eye out for what we thought was kind of interesting and innovative, right? That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, sounds great.
Awesome. So Anaheim, that's where Disneyland is.
Yeah, the expo is actually right across from Disneyland, and we didn't really go to Disneyland, but that's something that people do sometimes when they're there.
Yeah, a colleague in the music industry told me that they usually go there and spend a day. I didn't know that was a thing for adults, but apparently it is. I've only gone as a kid or with kids.
Yeah, I was the last time I was in Disneyland, I was 10 years old, and all the pictures of me and my brother, I don't look like I'm having fun, but I remember it as being fun.
Yeah. You could kind of just see the backdrop, just like a couple of mountains over the edge of this wall where you sort of got a sense that you were seeing the stuff you weren't supposed to see from the Anaheim Convention Center, which is humongous.
Oh my gosh. I walked into what I thought was the main conference hall. That turned out to be the smallest of the exhibiting halls.
You kept saying that. I'm in the main hall. I'm like, I don't know.
No, not at all. The main hall, I mean, how many football fields?
Yeah, it must have been
3 or 4.
Yeah, at least. I can't remember. Somebody tell us how many square feet it was. Was it like 1 million square feet? I can't remember.
Somewhere between 8,000 and 800,000.
To be exact. That place was huge. And yeah. So, I mean, not to sound like a total like conference newbie. Come on. We've both been to South by Southwest many times. You've been to CES. I've been to NAB, also in very big convention centers as well. But to see these things filled with music and musical instruments and gear and software, it was like heaven.
It was great. It was really cool getting to play around on all the new instruments. A lot of companies out there innovating in the MIDI space, in the beat making space. It was really cool. It was a cool show. There wasn't anyone there who was irrelevant. It was everybody was totally, worth our time, and it was cool. It was cool. We met a lot of people and had a blast.
Yeah. So there's the huge exhibit hall. Then there's another exhibit hall north. What was that thing called? I can't remember. The North AC or something, AC North or something like that.
The ACC North was the small one.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
I thought was the big one.
Right. And then you also have the Hilton and the Marriott all connected through this kind of courtyard system, and there's stages out. There's a huge stage outside, and stages in the hotels. And then you went to some sessions in some of the hotels as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went to a cool cloud session and another metadata session. Both were great.
Yeah. But the bulk of our time was really just walking the trade floor.
Yeah. You could spend the whole conference walking the trade floor and still not see everything.
Right. That's true.
Big.
That's true. And we tried to see everything, but even after like 5 days, we still, there were pockets. But, sometimes, we do PR for music technology companies, so we weren't seeking out the guitar strings or the guitar straps. And in fact, at one point, we found ourselves in the drum section.
In between all the cymbals, yeah.
The cymbals, yes. It was a cacophony of cymbals, and people were having a great time, and it looked like, if I wanted to test out some cymbals, this would be pretty insane and pretty cool. And, there's something like 100,000 people that go to this. So obviously, a lot of them are musicians checking out gear, what they might want to buy, but there's tons of other people attending from the industry, a lot of studio folks, a lot of live performance folks, and this is their chance to kind of see what are the new products that are rolling out, or maybe they've expanded their job description and they need to look into additional things. So there's sections with there was one section with a fog machine where I was just like, I can't breathe over here.
That was kind of near the DJ section, yeah.
Yeah.
Which has apparently gotten much bigger. What people were saying in past years, that section was, barely a room, and now it's, a football field size area that's just dedicated to DJs, and that craft. And so that was really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, one thing that was kind of, I guess, one of my first takeaways or observations about NAMM was that there's no easy way to navigate what are the innovative things at the event overall.
Yeah.
There's, it's like it's all mixed together. And you have a lot of companies that are importing things that aren't quite necessarily in tune with what's happening in the market now. Like remember we saw those hung drums, which were very popular like 5 years ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
And there were lots of like kind of knockoff sort of those. It's like, well, that looks like fun to play. You play like, it doesn't sound as good as what I thought it was supposed to sound like. And so it's really quite a hodgepodge, which makes it kind of hard to navigate. Like, okay, where's the cool stuff? Where's the innovative technology, both the gear and the software? And so we kind of had to kind of dig around until we found the pockets of where that stuff was.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the innovators in the MIDI kind of controller space, there's a lot of stuff going on there with just different textures of instruments. I mean, we're all used to a keyboard that's, maybe it's weighted. But now what about a keyboard that's squishy? That's kind of a different thing.
Right. Yeah. What was that company that had those tradable surfaces?
I know I'm gonna butcher the name, but I think it's Joue.
It's Joue or something like that.
Yeah, that was cool.
And they weren't fully there. They were represented by somebody else that was kind of like distributing or demonstrating their equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that's one category of things that we found were kind of expressive gear for keyboards mostly, where you could kind of manipulate the sounds outside of the keyboard, outside of the more traditional joystick or jog wheel that you'd see on a keyboard. And that sort of had that feel to it. And then there was the Touche.
Yeah, the Expressive E Touche. That was cool. It operates not only on an X and Y axis, but also pressure sensitive, up and down. So you have additional 2 parameters that you can work with. You can kind of slap it, move it back and forth, side to side, and you
could slide on the surface for another up and down as well.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was almost like it looked like a pedal for your hand. So you could press your heel down or your fingers down, and then left and right press down. But then you also, like Jade said, you add pressure and then also this slide motion. And you could go into the software and change all of those. I think it said there were 8 separate parameters.
Yeah, and it kind of responded like a vocoder, where you could hold down a chord with your right hand on the keyboard, and then with your left hand you could slap or move the Touche device, and then it would trigger the chord. So in terms of how a vocoder works, it was kind of similar. Yeah,
that was cool. I'm trying to think what other gear did you see or things that sort of just from a personal, like, oh, this is cool. I'd like this, or I'd like to play this, or I've never seen anything like this.
I mean, a lot of the drum machines, actually, one of the new Electron drum machine.
Model sampler or something?
Model samples. Yeah, that one, the knobs had dedicated parameters that they controlled, so it was really easy to just jump on it, start making a beat, mess around with some parameters. I was like, oh yeah, this would be great for a live performance, and it would just be fun to mess around on. So I really, when I'm a beat maker, and when I'm testing out gear, I look for that intuitive, like, how does this fit into my workflow? Like, how quickly am I able to go from inspiration to making something? And
I was with you actually when you were playing it, and I thought, how does he know that this is the one? This is the one that he likes. And I remember just seeing you had this like immediate kind of emotional, very natural emotional reaction to the ease of the experience.
Yeah, that was big for me. Yeah.
That was interesting, and I saw that model comes with stickers, so you can customize stickers. I was like, I don't know if that's necessary, but
that's so cool.
Something, yeah.
I'm a big fan of stickers. Anytime I can get stickers, I'll put them all over my laptop.
I guess they know their demographic then.
They do.
Yeah. What do we see? The Rolly was also, something that I actually hadn't seen before, and they have a new component as well, right?
Yeah, I think it's their blocks that are magnetically connected, and then they're working with GarageBand and Logic, kind of in a way that Novation was working with Ableton with the push. They're kind of in that same space where, like, how can we create a controller that will work with Logic so you don't have to touch the computer. You can just work on the hardware. And so they've actually done a pretty good job with that. They had a cool booth again on this. They're making squishy computers or squishy keyboards,
yeah.
and then the drum pads are also kind of squishy. So very fun to play with, and you're not going to like hurt yourself playing them.
It's interesting. Yeah, the tactile element. It's almost like maybe, who knows, maybe some of this stuff like this was at NAMM last year for all we know, since we weren't there.
Right.
But if you look, step back 10,000 feet and look down at it, and it sounds to me like that's a new phase of how these controllers are evolving and adapting. So the other, I guess another new phase, because we like to talk about kind of like trends in music tectonics, like in the broad sort of geologic metaphor kind of terms.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I was interested in is it seemed like there was access to some things that used to be more expensive or just too big, a lot of smaller kind of units and things like that. I can't remember the name of the company, but we met somebody who had this device that came out something like 50 years ago, and it's almost like a toy. It's like the size of a cigar box, not to be confused with the company that was making guitars out of cigar boxes. That was electric guitars out of cigar boxes that sound really good, but this was like a cigar box size thing that they said that David Bowie had used 30 or 40 years ago, that Kraftwerk had used like 30, 40 years ago. It sounds like maybe they're coming back. They've got a bigger unit as well. It was over by the Mellotron, but I can't remember the name of the company there. And Mellotron had a nice little booth there, and
oh yeah,
that was cool to see. I saw some excited keyboard players trying those out.
Yeah, there was a bunch of cool stuff there. I mean, it was like a kind of like being at Willy Wonka's.
It was.
For me, anyway.
Okay, my most Willy Wonka experience was the Alex 4 booth,
Oh, yeah.
which was like a mega booth, and I guess they're distributing like several different modular and analog synth units, and those companies may have been there or not, but these two guys, German guys with long gray lab coats were there. And I sat down with my friend Fabian, and we were like, all right, what do we do? And they're like, just kind of throw an answer at us, and we're like, no. Like, what do we actually do? And we were sitting in front of it. Actually, I think the company's called Analog Synthesizers. And I said, should we just unplug everything to start? And they said, sure. And they started unplugging all the wires. I mean, this is one of those analog synths where everything's connected via these colorful wires. And it's a knot of wires. So they start unplugging them. They start plugging them back in, from the oscillator to the filter, to the delay, to all these things, to the envelope. And as you can hear, I was having a blast. He finally got some sounds going, got a couple of tracks going, and we started just tweaking the knobs. That was a blast. And then you just look around, and there are all these different devices like that. What was that red one, the long red one?
Oh, that's the Haken Audio. I think it's the Continuum is what it's called. But that one's really cool too. They have that set up on a basically a long red strip. It's kind of like a velvety strip, and it's responsive to your touch. You can slide along it. You can play it kind of like a keyboard, but it's meant to simulate. I don't know if it's meant to simulate anything or kind of just be a totally new way to play. But that was cool too.
Yeah, I played with it a little bit and just found it had a toy like playfulness to it. Like, you don't have to get very serious with it. You can slide, and you can use pressure, or you can tap, and you can do some rhythmical stuff with the tapping as well. But it almost had something about the construction quality. It didn't seem like it was going to fall apart, but it felt very light, like it would be, easy for a kid to play with. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't too serious.
Yeah. It was cool.
Which was kind of cool.
I was kind of expecting to see more like AR, VR instruments. I saw a little bit of that. But honestly, more of the stuff was, physically in existence there, not on a screen or in a VR, simulation.
Yeah, the only VR I remember seeing was somebody was demonstrating something about their technology using VR. I think they were actually, the VR wasn't part of it itself. There's
a VR drummer booth, and there was another AR kind of booth where you could see yourself on the screen, and when you waved your hand in this direction and it came across the cymbal, it would crash the cymbal and it would hit the kick drum and stuff. And I think there's a lot of potential in that trajectory. I don't think that we're there yet in a way that any producer would say, oh yeah, that's seriously efficient for me to do that now. But I think that's where it's going, and I'm excited for that.
Well, we had Sherry Hu on the podcast last episode, and when I asked her about VR, she was talking about people creating experiences that weren't supposed to mimic experiences in real life, like the move your hand, it hits the symbol, but more like an immersive experience that's totally new that couldn't exist anywhere besides VR. So,
Yeah.
which NAMM is probably not the right place to see something like sci-fi like that, where it's like, you're going inside a music video basically, and you're interacting with the music video, and creating a scene, So NAMM, maybe. I mean, there was nothing quite like that was like extreme, on the extreme end of, we're going to transform what you think music is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or if it was there, it was more low key and probably in a smaller booth because they're a startup or something like that. But I'm excited for that trajectory. I think that there's a lot of potential in that area. Could be, keep your eye on that.
I'm going to do that. There were some, we haven't talked about much software stuff, and there were definitely some cloud-based software, cloud-based music creation opportunities, libraries, and plugins. I can't remember the name of the company that had pretty large booth where they had loaded in samples of one vocalist for a whole catalog. You could subscribe to the entire catalog as one vocalist, and this keyboard basically turned into either controlling that vocalist or turning it into a choir, a chorus of folks. And they had a few different genres of musicians that they, vocalists that they had recorded like tons of material. And so you might get 400 of these little samples that you could then just turn your keyboard into like an entire vocal experience, which was interesting because obviously people have sampled vocals and used them in their keyboards and so forth. But to go to that much depth with one vocalist gave you this library where you're basically playing the singer. And they did such a beautiful job at it too. Lots of really cool samples and a richness to the recording. So I don't know, it wasn't mind blowing, but when you saw somebody enjoying it, playing it, and creating something instantly, it was just intriguing to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of great libraries out there that are getting integrated with some of the hardware stuff, kind of moving in the direction of, okay, here's the flow. I'm searching for samples online, or I'm searching on Splice or TrackLab or one of these other libraries, and then I'm going to download the sample, and then I'm going to import it into my DAW, and then I'm going to start working with it. I think they're trying to cut down on that time to where you can actually search for these samples within the DAW, bringing that cloud element into your workspace, so it's just more efficient.
Yeah.
Also, on that same topic, just cloud collaboration. We're seeing more startups and music tech that are kind of focused on, how can we facilitate collaboration through the internet, maybe even in real time. So that's kind of where that cloud space could move, as 5G mobile kind of becomes a real thing and people are using their phones more for production, and people are, microphones are going into mobile devices and able to record just as well as you could in a computer. I think we're going to see more of that kind of stuff. It's totally interesting that collaborative. And I guess, there's such a professional atmosphere at NAMM in the sense that there's so many people that are professionally involved with music making and performance and recording, that something that you wouldn't think they'd necessarily be hinting on based on what you've seen there is that the type of technology that you're talking about really is creating access to more people. You don't have to invest as much in studio time once you have those online collaborative tools. And it'll be interesting to see. I can't picture NAMM getting bigger, but if it feels more like a Pokemon Go convention or a Comic-Con or something like that, I think that's it's already kind of like borders on that, because there's so many musicians that just love to go there. Yeah.
But if music making continues to open up to more and more people, which is kind of ironic when you hear news about guitar companies struggling because people are buying fewer guitars, but then there's these new interfaces that are more native to how young people are interacting with the world through
Yeah.
computers and buttons and knobs and software, that maybe it could have a potential growth even where
Yeah.
people are going to check out that stuff. Although I don't know that NAMM is known for that the edgiest stuff. And again, we kind of had to dig and look around to find some of the edgier stuff. But, you know, it might be Moog Fest where you go for that kind of thing. Or what was the one we heard about?
Super booth.
Super Booth, which you like saying.
Super booth. Just sounds good. That's in Berlin. That's like analog synth conference in Berlin that I kept hearing about, and I was like, that's where I need to go.
Yeah. Well, we might have to make our way out there. We got to hang with our guys from Hercules. DJ controllers, which are oriented towards kind of like what we were just talking about. It's the newcomers. It's not like, hey, I'm going to go and be a professional DJ tomorrow. It's like, hey, I'm a teenager. I've always wanted to DJ. This piece of equipment is small, affordable, and it actually teaches me as I play. It's got lights that show me how to do the beat matching, and it can recommend tracks when I'm not sure what to play next. So that was cool to see Hercules out there. Saw a lot of people playing, making music on their equipment while we were there as well. What else did we see?
We saw a bunch of stuff. I got a stack of business cards here from everyone we met. I'm gonna overestimate and say there's 100 here, but it's probably more like 60 or 70. There were so many cool companies there. If you're at all interested in the music technology space, NAMM is the go-to conference, I think. I mean, based on our first impression this year, I mean, we had a blast there. We met a ton of people.
Yeah,
got
I think
in touch with a bunch of new tech.
The one way in which it differs from like Music Biz or NAMM, some of the other industry conferences, is that you don't see as many of the kind of the B2B companies like exhibiting or kind of showcasing there as much. You know, some of the people we work with like Lyric Find and CD Baby and Dubset and Viva Sound, they're there, but they're not, you know, they're not kind of the main emphasis because there's so much emphasis on gear there. They're probably there making deals or having conversations with a lot of manufacturers and things like that. I forgot to mention I got to go over to Roland and also Korg, just to see all their stuff. The Korg, I love the little Korg Volca series. I've got a Volca sampler, and I loved seeing like 10 of them all wired together with all the different functions there. A little overwhelming, but fun just to see.
Yeah,
that was a popular booth. There were a lot of people there.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a cool show.
So we'll go back, right?
Oh yeah, we're going back.
Yeah.
There's also Summer NAMM, which is in Nashville in the summer, and it's apparently smaller, much smaller, but a lot of the same core players. A little more intimate setting because it's just a smaller expo.
Yeah.
But that one's a little closer
to us. Yeah, we could drive there in a few hours, so that might be a thing too. And next week, we're going to wrap up here in a minute, but next week, Jade and I are going to be in New York for the New York Music Tech Meetup, which takes place February 12th, 2019, Tuesday, from 7 to 9. Sherry Hu from Billboard and Forbes will be there. Root Note and Record Me are two other startups that are going to be presenting.
Nice.
So we're excited to go back there. We went and co-hosted last month. I can't believe it's so fast.
I know. We were just there.
So we'd love to see any of you out there. Just if you want to do a search for New York Music Tech Meetup or on the Meetup website, it's Music Techster is the name that our buddy Seth uses for running those. So that'll be fun. And would love to hear back from you. You can tweet us at rps.pr and let us know what your NAMM experiences have been like. If you saw some highlights, we didn't try to be inclusive here of everything we saw. We were just trying to give you a little flavor of what we saw, and also introduce you to Jade, our new business manager at Rock Paper Scissors, who can help you with your PR questions and needs for all the PR we do for music tech companies as well. Jade, anything else you're looking forward to in March or down the road here?
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to South by Southwest. which I'll be there, I think the 8th through the 16th. So good portion of the interactive and music portion of the show or conference. I've worked it a few years as media, but this will be my first year there as Rock, Paper, Scissors. So excited for that.
Yeah, that's cool. And Cheryl Woodhouse on our team from Rock, Paper, Scissors, along with Amadea from PEX, are going to be co-hosting the Music Tech Meetup. So look for that. I'm sure, Jade, you'll be there. And Cheryl and Amadea will be there. We always try to make those meetups very interactive. We want people to walk away meeting as many people as possible. So if you're at South by, come to that meetup. You'll walk away knowing 50 to 100 new people in about an hour. So that's pretty cool. So thanks so much for tuning in to Music Tectonics. Find us at musictectonics.com. You can also find Rock, Paper, Scissors online at rockpaperscissors.biz, B-I-Z. And tell everyone about the Music Tectonics podcast. Shoot us messages about what ideas you have for future shows or any feedback you have. And looking forward to meeting up with you in New York, South by Southwest, and beyond. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Jade. It was great having you on.
Yeah, thanks, Dimitri.
You're listening to Music Tectonics.